Welcome to the Real Nitty Gritty, where baby boomers share stories, wisdom, and a few laughs along the way. Elle McLeod is your host, inviting you to join candid conversations that celebrate our journeys, lessons learned, and the timeless values that bind us. So be sure to like, subscribe, and share, and click the notification icon. Whether you're reminiscing about the good old days or navigating the present, this podcast is your space to connect, reflect, and enjoy the ride.
Hi, welcome to the Real Nitty Gritty podcast. I'm Elle, your host. We are going to have a fabulous time today. I have a special guest in store for you. But before we get down to the real nitty gritty conversation of things, I need you to like, share, subscribe, and hit that little notification button. Okay? I thank you in advance. Now, let's get down to the real nitty gritty. I am bringing to you Keisha L. Blair. She is the host of Alpha Intuition Podcast and also known as Keisha the Electrician. Keisha, welcome to the Real Nitty Gritty. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Miss L. I am loving it. I love the layout, love everything. I love those pink headphones, girl. You know, I got a lot of pink stuff. So it's just great, great, great. Thank you so much. I'm ready to get down to the real nitty gritty.
All right, then. Well, let's do that. Can you tell me a little bit about your podcast and what can I expect when I tune in?
Okay, so Alpha Intuition, what it is now is different from where it started. You know, it's all an evolution. Everything is a journey. But on Alpha Intuition, I help people to become the CEO of their lives. And so I talk about different aspects of life. My first series, I talked about helping men to crack the crazy girl code. You know, most men are alpha males, and most women, we go with our intuition when it comes to relationships. So, you know, that's kind of where the name came from. And then there was an evolution. In season 2, I wanted to talk more about corporate. So my second series, I talked about helping people to crack the corporate relationship code. And now I just started my third season, and it is leadership lessons I learned in the field. So, you know, basically Alpha Intuition is just, you know, leaning in to that inner being, that inner mindset that you have. Sometimes we don't always want to listen to our intuition, but your first mind is usually your best mind.
Yes.
So when it comes to becoming the CEO of your life, you always have to listen to yourself first. So that's where it came from.
All right, that's interesting. And you know what grabbed my attention? The crazy girl code.
Oh, yes, yes.
Could you tell me about that?
You know, I work around men a lot. So I had a lot of conversations with guys, you know, because if you're with somebody anywhere from 8, 12, 14, 16 hours a day, you know, they saw me or talked to me more than they talked to their relationship person at home. So we had a lot of conversations on the job site, and I would just give them a lot of insight as to how women would think. So, you know, years later, when I thought about a topic, it was like, yeah, that's something that I do. And it's second nature to me. I just help men to crack the crazy girl code, because they'll usually ask me, you know, for advice. And I'll say, okay, tell me what happened. And then I'll tell you what really happened. Because you're never going to tell me what really happened, but I'm going to be able to decode it because, you know, I'm fluent in crazy girl. So I can tell you why she's crazy, because it's something that you probably did.
I love it. I love it. Okay. I wanted to talk to you about starting a podcast and when you first started your podcast. So if you can go into some of the do's and don'ts and some of the lessons that you learned when you first started out, because, you know, I'm going through that right now, and help me and help all of us to understand and make the road just a little less bumpy for
Well,
us.
I'm going to say, first of all, shout out to the My Seven Figure podcast community, David Shan, CJ, and then Carl Phillips, because without them, I wouldn't have been able to start my podcast. That's where I started. You know, I hopped on one of the masterclass calls that they had, and that's where I started from. Went through all the modules, kind of, you know, went out and bought a whole bunch of stuff like you were saying you did, didn't even know what to do with it. But going through those modules really helped me to understand what to do for my podcast. That was, you know, very, very, they have very detailed information in there. So, but I basically started with just my cell phone and my earbuds. That's kind of how I started. And then, you know, I started on StreamYard. That's my platform that I still use now. And I just streamed specifically to YouTube. I believe, I'm not sure who it was. I think may have been Carl. that said, you need to master one platform because there's so many different platforms out there, but I'm still mastering YouTube. So that's the one that I stream to the most. And I just put clips out there on all the other platforms, but I specifically only exclusively stream to YouTube. But one of the first things I realized that I had to do was to figure out who my target audience was, who was my avatar. And that's something that David Shansey talks about, right? Is finding your avatar, the person that you're going to speak to, and, make that, when you think about your topics and things like that, make sure that you're always speaking to that person. So I keep that in mind when I'm crafting up my shows or inviting people on my podcast. And then, I started out with the co-host. That didn't kind of work out at the beginning because, I think it was mostly my fault because there was a disconnect in my communication to that person to where they thought they were co-owner of my show and not just a co-host.
Yes.
So, that kind of dissolved early on. And then I went into, I think I reached out to someone else who was a co-host, and I had a couple of different things. And so I've done the solo and I've done guest. It's just about, where you find your sweet spot is. But I think so. If I would say don't feel like you have to do or learn everything all at once, because every show that you put out, you're just going to get better. You're going to look at the preview. You're going to look at this first episode and be like, man, I can't believe that thing is terrible. Once you get to episode 100,
Yes.
So just make sure that you grow every episode. And I would say, just keep coming back every week, making sure, like you said, you're being consistent, making sure, or however often you put your podcast out,
Yes.
Make sure that you're doing the things that you need to do to grow within your podcast shows.
We are about to get down to the real nitty gritty because here comes the real. I was so nervous. so nervous. CJ, he asked for somebody. We were on a conference call and I was like, I am so nervous, just a ball of nerves. And he asked for someone to step up to the plate and speak some sense into me, really. This is the real nitty gritty, you guys, in case you wanted to know why this is the real nitty gritty podcast. It's where we don't play any games and we get down to the nuts and bolts of everything, the nitty gritty. Okay, so Keisha stepped up to the plate to talk to me, and we talked last Friday, and I have not been nervous since I talked to her.
Aww.
And I just appreciate her so. And you can see that she is here for me. She's helping me out. And all of the nerves have just gone away. And I'm in my Zen space.
That's
so thank
good.
you, Keisha.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Like I said, girl, we got to get you out your head. We're going to take a deep breath and we just going to make it happen. And if it don't work this week, we'll just do it again next week.
But this is part of being new to podcasting. Sometimes you get nervous, and nervousness doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. It could be a good thing because it might push you to where you need to be or where you're trying to go. So, I really appreciate you, Keisha, for that. Thank you. If for any situation that comes about, we have a song that we think about. Maybe you had a bad breakup, or maybe you met somebody. It's a song that you think about. What kind of music evokes memories of being at home as a child with your parents?
I know we talked about this. We're both Cali girls. So, I grew up in California too. Not too far from each other in Southern California. That's something that came out amongst our talk. So, and I grew up off of 87th in Vermont. And my parents, they would, I don't know, they listened to a whole bunch of stuff. But the first song that came to mind when you said that was two. Well, the first one was Tina Marie.
Mm.
So we used to listen. My mom loved Square Biz.
Yes.
Square Biz. And then Hall & Oates. I Can't Go For That.
Yeah. I remember that. I remember Hall & Oates. They had a song called Rich Girl. You're a rich girl.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. I remember growing up, I can tell that it's Saturday, and I know that my dad was off work because he would be outside washing my mom's car, then washing his car, and with BB King playing. The thrill is gone. And then my mother's favorite song was Green Onions. And it was so funny that Green Onions was like all instrumental, but it was a good song that you could dance to. And my mother would be rocking and shaking and stuff. But the little known secret was my mother couldn't dance. Couldn't dance a lick. And she used to tell me they would put that song on in the club, and her girlfriends would be sitting around, and she'd start rocking and shaking, and she'd bring all the boys over. And they'd be asking her to dance, and she says, "Oh no, dance with her." Well, dance with her, dance with that one. But she would bring the boys to the yard and then send them over to her girlfriends to dance. So it was just real fun times, and that's how our memories are made. I know my kids right now, they tell me um, Anita Baker is their throwback song. That while I'm in the kitchen cooking or cleaning up, I had Anita Baker going.
I
So
love Anita Baker. Yeah, I've seen
yeah,
her in
yeah.
concert before. Love her. My dad was one of my dad's favorite artists too. He loved Anita Baker. Angela Bofield was another one. His birthday. My dad passed away in 2023, and I posted on my story just the Angela Bofield song because that was one of his favorite artists too.
The kids these days, the music that they're listening to, which I enjoy, they are sampling so many songs
Mm-hmm.
from the 60s, the 70s, and the kids think the music is new.
You don't know no better.
Baby boomers will know that music right off the bat. So the minute that you hear something and they're grooving to that music, you could play the original version and just blow their minds with the original version of it.
And I'm gonna tell you something that gets under my skin slightly sometimes is that the new generation, you got the Gen Zs and the Alphas, where they'll kind of group us in together. And I say us because I'm Gen X.
Right.
So Gen X and you're baby boomers. So
You
it's like
are
they
not
kind
a baby boomer, and that is okay. You're welcome to the table too.
of welcome to the table. I'm here.
Yeah,
Hey, we're
yeah.
Gen X. But yeah, so even with our music, I think about from my generation and how we sample songs from your generation, and now the newer they're sampling from both of our generations.
Yes, 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 yes. But the thing of it is, they think it's new.
I think it's new.
When they hear it now, of course, the artists know that it's being sampled or whatever, or I believe they should know.
Hmm.
But when the kids hear it, they think it's something new, all together. But I don't know. You live and you learn.
That's right.
So we're going to be wrapping up, Keisha. But tell me, how would I get in? How can I find you? What are your social media handles?
So I am Keisha the electrician on Instagram. Is Keisha underscore the underscore electrician, and that's Keisha. That's on Instagram and on YouTube. And of course, on LinkedIn and Facebook, I use my government name. So it was Keisha L. Blair. And I try to tell people, make sure you put the L in there because the L is very important. Sometimes you got to take a lot of L's in life to get to where you want to be. So it's Keisha L. Blair. And my podcast, Alpha Intuition, you can find me on YouTube. And that is at Alpha Intuition Podcast.
Great. Do you have anything that is coming up that we can look forward to from Alpha Intuition or any
Yes.
of your other businesses?
Yes, so I actually have a skilled trades workshop that's coming up. I'm not sure when the show is going to air, but it will take place on May 31st. And it's actually on Eventbrite right now. So you can go to Eventbrite and just look for the, what is it called? The Skilled Trades Legacy Lab. And it's just me and two other tradesmen that are in some of the communities that I'm in. One's a pipe fitter and the other one is a bricklayer, and me being an electrician. And we just talk about where we are now as opposed to when we started in the trades and how we use the trades as a stepping stone and not a plateau. So I'm very excited about that. That's going to be coming up on May 31st.
Interesting, interesting. That sounds like there's going to be some really good information going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then I have like I say, my new season for Alpha Intuition is starting. I'm talking about leadership lessons that I've learned in the field. So basically, me just taking it back to boots on the ground, tools in the hand, and just talking about all of the different things that I've learned along my journey to where I am now, from the the construction site to the boardroom and to entrepreneurship.
All right. All right. Sounds good. Well, I'd like to thank you, Keisha, for joining us today. I'm just elated just to have you here. I don't know what more to say. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you so much. I truly appreciate the invite. Ingrid, you did such a phenomenal job. This is great. We done got down to the real nitty gritty. I can't wait to see what you
Yes.
do with this platform.
Yes, yes, yes. So I'm hoping that everyone here enjoyed our special guest, Keisha L. Blair. This is a big thing for me, and I hope hopefully it's a big thing for you as well. You know, things baby boomers experience, and well, everybody experience, but baby boomers experience might be just a little bit different. So we're going to be talking about relationships, finances, our health, uh, online dating. You know, who likes online dating? I don't.
Not
We're going to be talking about some of everything, and we're going to have a weekend activity guide. We got a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff in store for you. Before you leave today, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and hit that notification button so you can become part of the community here at the Real Nitty Gritty Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Real Nitty Gritty. If today's episode resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow boomers who appreciate a good story and meaningful conversation. Stay connected with us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Visit our website, realnittygrittypodcast.com, for links to our social media platforms and more. Remember, every story adds a stitch to the rich tapestry of our generation. Until next time, keep sharing, keep laughing, and keep living the real nitty gritty.